So today we are going to look at the beautiful group, actually, not just only the Kusala Citta. I just realized that I put the Kusala Citta wholesome consciousness on the title, but actually I think we are going to finish all the beautiful Cittas today. The last group of Kamavachara Cittas, the last group of the sense realm Cittas or consciousness with characteristics of the sense realm. Okay, so before we start, let's pay respect as we always do. Let's recite Namo Tassa together for 3 times. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. Homage to the sublime, the victorious, and the totally self-enlightened one. Okay, welcome everyone. Today, I would like to start with, with domanassa. We're talking about domanassa and dosa. That was the questions that Austin asked last week. And so there are some things that we can explore about this. So I would like to start with this today. So last week, we have a question of why domanassa and dosa, why must they always arise together? Now, the first thing that we have to maybe clarify is the wordings. Maybe instead of saying that they must always arise together, we would rather say that it appears that they always arise together. So it's not that they must, but then it happens that they always arise together. So first of all, let's see. Now we have 89 kinds of cittas that are available. That are taught in the Abhidhamma. 89 kinds or 121 kinds. But this variation, it's only about the jhana of, when people get enlightened, whether they have jhana or not. So this variation is, we are not there yet, but anyway. So let's look at this, let's say 89 types of cittas. Among these 89 types of cittas, let's see where it is possible for domanassa, meaning a mental unpleasantness, to arise. First of all, let's do a study in this. Now, first of all, in the Lokuttara Cittas, so that are cittas that takes nibbana as object. Here, quite obviously, domanassa is not possible, right? Everyone agree? Because those are those enlightened, and those cittas that arise when we get enlightened. So no, not here. Then how about arupavachara? This is high jhana. So in jhana also, mental unpleasantness is not possible because we always feel pleasant during jhana. No, upeka in this case. And then here in the rupavachara jhana, sometimes one can feel piti, or piti meaning joy and happiness. So in these 2 categories, that is also not possible. So although we haven't arrived there yet, we understand that in these 3 categories, domanassa is not possible. Mental unpleasantness is not possible. Now, so the only place where it can arise seems to be only kamavachara, right? Only cittas with the characteristics of the sense plane. Okay, so in kamavachara, let's look further into the kamavachara cittas where it can arise. Now, in the akusala cittas, in the first, we have already studied this, so we all know, in lobha mula citta, when one experiences lobha, which is greed or attachment or liking and all these things, then most of the time we like something with pleasant mental feeling, or either just neutral. So mental unpleasant feeling doesn't seem to fit here, right? Agree? Yes? Okay. So for domanassa, when we are angry or when we are just feeling bored, or when there is fear, or because dosa is so, there are so many colors to dosa, right? So from very slight unpleasantness or uneasiness to like really angry, hatred and all this, those are all included in dosa. So whenever all these feelings arise, that it is always associated with an unpleasantness. So domanassa is possible here. We all agree, yes? There's not much doubt about it. Then let's see. The next group of cittas are the mohamula. So delusion-rooted. As we said, delusion-rooted, the mind doesn't actually know what's going on. So it's actually most of the time dealing with doubt or restlessness, this kind of citta. So they associate only with vipāka, mental neutral feeling. So here, unpleasant feeling also does not arise in this group. Okay, so here we see in akusala citta, only here is possible at the moment. Now let's see, how about the resultant? Here is rootless, right? Rootless. So this resultant is the result of the akusala cittas, right? We have studied this last week. Then just to remind ourselves, what are they? They are the unwholesome resultant consciousness, 7 akusala vipāka cittas, all rootless. They are eye, ear, nose, tongue, body consciousness, and receiving and investigating consciousness. So all of this here, as we know, they are very simple consciousness. They only arise to take the object and then they cease. So this at this moment, the mind actually doesn't know much about the object yet because it's just arise to take the object. So as we know, they only associate with vipāka here, all of them, except this kiriya, because last week we have explained, because body and the body sensitivity and the matter, the earth element itself, when they contact each other, the impact is strong. Therefore, it's dukkha, it's bodily unpleasant feeling. So that is possible, but not mental unpleasant feeling here. No, I mean, it is a mental unpleasant feeling because of the body, because of the body touch. Right. So here it is dukkha. Otherwise, they are all vipāka. Okay. So coming back to this graphic, then we see here also domanassa, which means purely mental unpleasant feeling not possible. It does not arise in this group. Then next group. This one is the resultant of kusala citta, of the wholesome consciousness, rootless resultant. No, in this case, what are they? They are similar with this one, with the unwholesome resultant. They are the eye, ear, nose, touch. But in that case, the objects are good objects. Remember that we talked about last week. So here, because the object is good, although the object is good, the only one that can have domanassa, that can associate with mental pleasant feeling, is investigating consciousness, because it starts to know a little bit more about the object. Otherwise, they also only associate with mental neutral feeling. And for body consciousness here, because of the impact of the body sense and the earth element here in this case, because it is result of previous wholesome karma, then it is associated with sukha, with pleasant mental feeling that has to associate with the body. So here also, domanassa is not possible. Then let's continue looking. Here, functional. Functional, it just arises to do a function. So they associate with vipāka, with mental neutral feeling. Then this we have not much to think about whether it is possible to have unpleasant feeling or not, because it is just a function, right? Then what is left are all beautiful consciousness. So when beautiful consciousness arise, although we haven't studied all of them, but we can imagine when beautiful consciousness arise, that means those consciousness that are associated with the 3 good roots. In that case, then it is also quite impossible to associate with a mental unpleasant feeling, isn't it? So in that case, it seems that among the 89 types of cittas, the only possible place for mental unpleasantness, domanassa, to arise is only here. There is nowhere else where it can possibly arise. Okay, so until here, that's one point. And then there is other things to consider about this too. Now, if we look at dosa itself, although there is a translation problem here, because there is no one word in English that can cover the whole range of what dosa means. So usually we translate it as aversion, anger, or hatred, which are quite strong words, yeah? But we have to remember that dosa covers all different shades of aversion, even from the very, very subtle uneasiness to the very, very broad, like hatred and anger. But we should not take dosa as only to mean anger or hatred, according to the translation. So even the tiny, tiny sense of uneasiness is also included. So sometimes we may say that, well, I do feel mentally unpleasant, but I'm not angry. Right, fair enough. That's understandable. But that does not mean that we cannot say that there is no dosa, because dosa may be just a little bit of not wanting this mental unpleasantness, or the avoidance, or just even not prefer not to have this mental unpleasantness. So actually, even we don't recognize it, that actually, according to the Abhidhamma, there is already dosa when we don't want or prefer not to have this mental unpleasantness. So this is another point that we should consider. Now, another point. If we look at the mental process here, let's compare the 5-door mental process and the mind door mental process. In the 5 sense door mental process, we know that bhavanga citta is a resultant. Then we have a functional. Then this I consciousness, receiving, investigating, all this is also rootless resultant. Then we have functional. And then we have this jhavana is where we react to what we have, what the mind have taken as an object, yes? Then we have the aftertaste, and then the bhavanga again, which is resultant. Now, comparing with the mind door process, since the mind does not have to receive an object, a visible object or a sound or something with the 5 senses, then you see here, there is no resultant here. You see? It's only the functional, and directly the mind reacts. Directly the mind thinks, or the mind acts, right? So here there is no resultant consciousness here. So whenever the mind remembers something, or sometimes we say a memory just pop up, right? Like automatically. But then those are not due to past karma. I'll repeat this. If something pops up in the mind, that is not because of past karma. You see, in the mind door mental process, there is no resultant here. It is not result of a past karma. So that means whatever the mind is thinking, it is actually actively thinking about that. Even we know it or not, we recognize it or not. So then we may say, then why does memory pops up? Then there can be many reasons. Maybe because we saw something, we saw a flower. Then I remember my grandma, for example. So that's because the seeing itself, it is a resultant. It is because of karma. Then we see a beautiful flower or something here. Let's say the I consciousness itself, yes. But then the next process, when the mind think about grandma, or this memory comes up, is because the mind is thinking. It's not because of a past karma. So here it is the thing. Whatever the mind thinks, we are responsible of it. It is not past karma. So the mind is actively thinking. Okay. So therefore, when we say that we have a mental unpleasant feeling, or we are thinking about something and I don't feel good about it, but I'm not angry, that's okay. But then maybe that unpleasant feeling, and then that little aversion or uneasiness is actually already here. It's in the jhavanas already. So those are actually, according to the Abhidhamma, it is actually dosa mula citta, the only place where domanassa can arise. Okay, so here, the only thing that I wanted to emphasize is that we have to expand our understanding of the meaning of dosa, that it is really a very wide meaning. There is no one English word that can cover everything that dosa means. So if we consider that, then we may understand like sometimes, like even if we have unpleasant feeling, but we are not angry with it. So it matches with our experience in that sense. But there is still mental unpleasantness. But there is always, like when there is mental unpleasantness, I think no one really likes it, no? So there is always like prefer not to have this kind of feeling, no? So that is associated with dosa according to the Abhidhamma. Okay, so those are the few directions where we can explore about why dosa, domanassa, always associated with dosa. Austin, how is it? Is it a little bit more clear?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, why wouldn't that also apply for the pleasant feelings in that case, where it's possible to have a pleasant feeling with neutral reaction,
Right.
but it's not possible to have an unpleasant feeling like pain with neutral reaction. So how is that not? I mean, similarly applicable everything of on the domanassa side,
Yes.
not mirrored and applicable on the somanassa side also.
Okay, let's just leave this. Let's look at the other ones first. So for here, it is not possible for somanassa to arise because for the fifth jhana, it's always with vipāka. But these ones we haven't looked at it, so let's just leave it at the moment. For rupavachara, which is jhana citta, it is possible to associate with mental neutral feeling, but also together with somanassa. Because when one is meditating and is attaining jhana, well, maybe we haven't studied that yet, so maybe some of you might not know. Do you know the 5 jhanangas? The 5 jhana factors? But it is possible, like let's say, just imagine when one is meditating, then and then one is feeling very calm and very pleasant. At that moment, some joy is possible to arise. Agree? So those kind of joy is one mental factor, and Vedana, mental feeling, is another mental factor. So when there is joy, then the mind feels good. It's a mental pleasant feeling. So it is possible to associate with somanassa here. And okay, let's look at then kamavachara. Then it is more daily that we are experiencing about this kamavachara. Now here, let's say in the akusala citta, when we are wanting something, everyone have this experience. When we are desiring something, attaching to something, how do we feel? There's a mental pleasant feeling, no? When we want something or when we like something, when we attach to something, that is possible in this case, in akusala. And when we are doing good, we can feel good. When we help other people, there is a mental pleasant feeling that is possible. And when we are studying, then when we feel that we understand something, then there is possible that the mind feels pleasant about it, right? So naturally, somanassa is wider. Somanassa can associate with these other cittas, which is when we are doing good, when we are meditating, or others. So therefore, but domanassa, when we are doing good, we do not feel bad. We do not feel unpleasant. And when we meditate, we do not feel unpleasant. So it's just the nature of the mental feeling. Together with the other cittas. Does that answer your question, Austin?
Yes. I want to thank you for going into so much detail and coming back to the answer. If there's any more questions, I'll definitely get back to you offline. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, finishing with this question, we are going to today's content. In the previous week that we have finished already Kusala Citta, we have finished the rootless consciousness, and today we are going to look at the Sobhana Cittas, the beautiful consciousness. And by saying beautiful consciousness, we are actually referring to some groups of cittas that are associated with the 3 good roots, with the 3 beautiful roots. And just to remember, which are they? So they are the opposite actually of the three unwholesome roots, which is aloba. You see loba, no? So here aloba, this is a negation. So aloba here means non-attachment, non-greed. And on the positive side, it is generosity, not just non-greed, not just without greed, but also being generous. So this is aloba. And then we have dosa, and the opposite of it, dosa. So aversion, non-aversion, non-hatred, or loving kindness. So in this case, we can translate it in different English words, but we know the meaning. Then we have moha. And on the other side, the opposite, moha, meaning non-delusion, non-ignorance, that is wisdom. So these are the three good roots. So all the chittas that we are going to look at today are associated with some of these good roots. And under the Sobhana Cittas, the beautiful consciousness, here we can further divide it into three groups, just like the other ones. The first one is called Kusala. Kusala is the wholesome consciousness. That's the opposite of Akusala Citta, no? There's wholesome consciousness, which is active consciousness. When we are doing good, then this kind of wholesome consciousness arises. And then we have vipāka citta. Later we will look at it. And we have also kiriya cittas, so resultant and functional. And first, we are going to look at kusala cittas, okay? Now, before we go into the kusala group of what kind of cittas are there, it will be good to take a look of the word kusala itself. In the commentary to the Abhidhamma, 4 meanings are given to the word kusala, and it is stated that 3 of them are suitable for the meaning here. Now, the first meaning is healthy or absent of disease. So something that is healthy, that is free from disease. The second meaning is blameless or faultless, meaning that those actions, kusala actions, are not to be blamed by noble person. They are faultless in that sense. And the third meaning of this word kusala, it can also mean skillful. But this skillful, this word here, the meaning of kusala, when we use it as skillful, it depends on context. It is like sometimes when we say the person is skillful, let's say he's very skillful in playing the guitar. So he is kusala in playing the guitar. That kind of skillful, it's meant here. Then another one is productive of happy result or productive of desirable results. So these 4 are the meanings that are given in the commentaries for the word kusala. But here we only take 3 of them. So healthy or absence of disease, blameless or faultless, not to be blamed by the noble people, and productive of happiness, happy result and desirable result. So here skillful is not taken because the commentary says that the word skillful can also have a bad connotation to it. Well, we can say that a man is very skillfully kill another person, or he is very skillfully steal something from someone. Also, that skillful is not cannot be applied to kusala cittas here. So because it says skillful, it doesn't say what does he do, right? So therefore, here kusala, we only take this 3 meaning for this word. So this is just extra information from the commentaries, which can be interesting to understand a little bit more about kusala. Okay, so now let's go into kusala cittas. So when does kusala cittas, wholesome cittas, arise? So whenever we perform any kind of actions, any kind of meritorious deed, then with non-greed, non-hatred, and non-delusion, then this kind of citta arise. So as we said previously, action is karma. So mental action, verbal action, and physical action, when we do this, then this citta, this kind of wholesome cittas arise in the mind. So actions come, meaning karma. Whenever there is action, we're actively doing something, it is always planting seeds. So there will be result. Result will come later on. Now going back into the mental process, so we see here is the place where the mind reacts, where we plant seeds, right? In the jhavanas moment, this 7 jhavanas moment. So these Kusala Cittas, they only arise here in the jhavanas moments. We're talking about wholesome consciousness, not Kusala Citta. Okay, now, whenever any wholesome consciousness, any Kusala Citta arise, they always associate with alobha and adosa. Alobha and adosa, they are universal, beautiful mental factors, we call. So whenever wholesome consciousness arise, these two always arise together. For example, when we perform a good action, a good mental action, like having good wishes and good thoughts for others, or we say some kind words, or we physically help someone, then these cittas are always without attachment. When we help someone, we are not attached. No, we are trying to help, or we are being kind and we are having good thoughts, and then we are also having without aversion at that moment. But there is another root, remember, also wisdom is also there, panya, no, amoha. So when we help, or when we say good words, or when we think good things, it can be associated with wisdom or without wisdom, right? So with all the Kusala Cittas, alobha and adosa is always there, but amoha, wisdom, is occasional. Sometimes it can associate with wisdom, sometimes it can be without wisdom. Okay, so just like the akusala cittas that we have studied previously, for kusala cittas, there are also 4 aspects to it. Now, first the root. Then we have said already, they associate surely with non-greed and non-aversion. And then we have to also see that the mental feeling that is associated with. And the next one is whether it associates with wisdom or not. And another one, prompted, unprompted, or prompted. So if you remember the akusala lobha mula citta, the greed-rooted consciousness, then it's quite similar. Here it is greed-rooted in that case, and here it is with or without wrong view. Remember? Then it's also with mental feeling and also unprompted or prompted, right? Okay, so the root here, we have already said that it must always associate with non-greed and non-aversion. That's okay. Then how about mental feeling? And as we said, mental feeling here also, domanassa is not possible. When we perform wholesome action, then the mind always either has a pleasant feeling or has a neutral feeling. It cannot associate with mental unpleasantness because we're doing good. Okay, so feeling only these 2 kinds. Then it can also be unprompted or prompted. So just to remind ourselves about this unprompted or prompted, unprompted is without anyone telling us to do so, or it's very spontaneously, we just want to do that. This citta just arises unprompted. Those are unprompted or not instigated, right? Now, about prompted, it is if someone encourages us to do something, why don't you do good? Why don't you do this? And why don't you help him? Then we think, oh yeah, it's true. I can help him. Then those citta that is arise with prompted. Or if oneself hesitates a little bit, should I or should I? Yeah, I think I should. So in that case, if you hesitate a little bit, then it's also prompted. As an example, let's say this person, he needs help. And in the case of a prompted, maybe this little girl offered him something because her mom tells her, encourages her to help him. Okay, so in this case, it would be prompted. But if it was her idea, then she was walking with her mom on the street, and then she said, "Mom, wait, I want to help him." And then she gets her own pocket money and give him something. In that case, this is unprompted. So kusala cittas also can be prompted or unprompted. And now, which one do you think is is stronger? Yeah, right? The second one, no, this one unprompted is stronger. Because without encouragement, without needing encouragement, we spontaneously just want to do it. So this citta is stronger. Okay, so that's the prompted and unprompted. Now we have also another aspect, which is wisdom. Okay, let's see a little bit. There are many kinds of wisdom. First one is the understanding of karma and the result of karma. So karma means action. So the understanding of whatever we do, there will be a result. A result will happen. So that is one understanding that is also called wisdom. When we perform an action, we understand that I'm doing good, and then this good is good now, and it's also going to produce a good result later on. That if we do it with this kind of thinking, then this kind of citta is associated with wisdom. That's the first one. And then wisdom, also there are deeper kinds of wisdom, right? Now, the understanding of the true nature of things and seeing reality as it really is and not how we would like it to be, that is also wisdom. For example, seeing mind and matter in the ultimate reality and seeing phenomena in the universal characteristics of all conditioned things as impermanent, like thinking that things are not permanent, they arise and then they passes away with this understanding, and understanding that these things are conditioned, so they cannot be satisfactory. And then also anatta as well, then it is not self, it is only because all conditions are fulfilled and then things arise, and then what I call I is only mind and matter running in its natural process. So these kind of understandings are deeper kind of wisdom. Now, in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the sutta where the first sutta where the Buddha delivered the wheel turning, discourse of the turning of the Dhamma wheel. Now, so in that sutta, the Buddha explained about the Four Noble Truths, and in the Four Noble Truths, if you know, or maybe you have heard about it or not yet, then that is the way of practice. That is the way to come out of suffering, right? So in the Noble Eightfold Path, there are 8 factors. Here we're doing just a brief introduction, because if we go into details about the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path, it will get quite long, but then sure, we will get into it in later chapters. Here is just a brief introduction about wisdom. So we are looking at it. Now, the first one we see in the Noble Eightfold Path is right view. Then we have right thought. Oh, sorry, T is missing. Okay, and then we have right speech, right action, right livelihood, right attention, right effort, and right concentration. So these are the 8 components of the Noble Eightfold Path. And the Noble Eightfold Path are actually divided into 3 sections. Which is Sila, Samadhi, and Panya. So if we see these 3 belongs to Sila, the other 3 belongs to Samadhi, Sila meaning morality, the Samadhi meaning concentration or mental stability, and these 2 belongs to Panya. So in the Panya wisdom, in the Panya group, we have right view and right thought. So let's take a little look about what does wisdom mean in the Noble Eightfold Path, just in brief. Now, first, let's look at right view. Right view, as we have said already, the first one is the understanding of karma, that there are causes, actually understanding cause and effect. No, there are causes and there are effects. Now, even in the suttas, also the Buddha always mentioned that all beings are the owners of their actions, heir to their actions, born of their actions, related through their actions, and live dependent on their actions. Whatever they do, for good or for evil, to that will they fall heir. So this is from the Anguttara Nikaya, and so all beings are owners of our own actions. Whatever we do, result is going to happen. So, okay, so this is understanding this is one of the right view. And the other right view is the understanding, actually the understanding of the Four Noble Truths. Now, the first noble truth is the noble truth of suffering, dukkha. Now, this word, again, is a tricky word. The word we use is dukkha, right, in Pali. So if we use suffering, sometimes we associate this English word with really a lot of suffering, but then it might not be just really like how we understand suffering in the English way, English word, because even unsatisfactoriness, even in the Brahma realm or in the Deva realm, when beings, they live like very happily. They don't suffer much, actually, but that is still unsatisfactory because that life is also bound to end and they have to be reborn again and again. So that unsatisfactoriness is what is meant by dukkha here, but generally it's translated as suffering. Then the second noble truth is that there is a cause to this dukkha. And then the third one is the third noble truth of the cessation of dukkha. So it is possible. Then the fourth one is the path to the cessation of suffering, which is the Noble Eightfold Path that we just looked at. Now, in brief, the four noble truths we can say is, in simple words, dukkha exists, there is a cause, and then the cessation of dukkha is possible, and there is a way, the path to this cessation. If we look at this, the Buddha is actually like a doctor, like a physician, no? First, he tells us that there is symptom. He tells us that this conditioned phenomena is unsatisfactory. That's the symptom. There is suffering. And then the diagnosis is that there is a cause to it. What is the cause? Tanha, no? Then there is, why do we suffer? There is a cause. Then the prognosis is that, and then, so then what do we do now? There is suffering, and then we know there is a cause. But then he is telling us that cessation is possible, that dukkha can cease. And he gives the prescription. How? And then we just have to follow the Noble Eightfold Path. So this is in general, in brief, the Four Noble Truths. So understanding about this deeply, of course, now we intellectually briefly understand what it talks about, and later we have to study more in details, and then we have to practice, and then we have to understand it experientially, with our own meditation practice. So those are, all these kind are included in wisdom, all this understanding. Okay, so in the second factor of the Noble Eightfold Path, that's right thought, which is also in the Panya group, the wisdom group, right thought. And what is actually meant by right thought? If we say right thought, like, how do I know if this thought is right or if this thought is not right, right? So right thought here is actually defined as thoughts that are associated with detachment, renunciation, nekkhamma, thought associated with metta, with loving kindness, and thoughts that are associated with karuna, with compassion. So when we say right thought, sammasankappa, we mean thoughts of nekkhamma, metta, and karuna, detachment, renunciation, loving kindness, and compassion. Okay, so this is just very briefly introducing what is meant by wisdom or panya in the Noble Eightfold Path. Now in later chapters, we will go into more details of each of them. Okay, so the Noble Eightfold Path, Sila, Samadhi, and Panya, so this group. So when we have this kind of understanding reality as it is, understanding the Four Noble Truths, understanding that there is karma and its result, then when we act with this kind of understanding, then the wholesome consciousness, Kusala Cittas, that arise at those moments are called those that are with wisdom. Okay. Now here, one more thing that we have to mention here. Remember, in the Lobha Mula Citta, in the greed rooted consciousness, when we say that there is wrong view or associated with or not associated with wrong view, remember? So in that case, that we say that if a person, he generally understand that there is karma and there is an effect of karma, then whenever he perform an unwholesome action, or he's stealing, or he's harming others or whatever, or he is attached to something, but he understands that there is result, then those cittas are called dissociated with DT, without wrong view. Yes? Okay. But now here, wisdom needs a little bit more effort. A general understanding is not good enough. Otherwise, a person who accepts that karma, or he generally thinks that karma exists and there will be result, if he generally just understand this, then all the wholesome citta that arise within him will always be with wisdom, right? So for wisdom, it needs a little bit more effort. So not only a general understanding, but while performing that action, we must actually consciously, purposefully use wisdom. While performing, for example, if I'm doing good, if I'm serving an elderly person, then I understand that doing this is a wholesome work, and there is karma. There will be good result. Not that I want to have a good result, but nature works that way. If I plant good seeds, good result is going to happen. And understanding that things are also impermanent, and also not that when we do good we have to think about all these things, but just we have to consciously do this good work. So when we consciously do a wholesome action, then those cittas are to be called with wisdom. Okay. Now, with these aspects, then we get 8 kind of kamavachara kusala cittas here. Sense fear, wholesome consciousness. Now, the first 4 accompanied by mental pleasure, meaning that we do the meritorious action or wholesome action happily, right? With a happy mental feeling, we do it happily. So associated with wisdom, or it can be unprompted or it can be prompted. And the next category is dissociated from wisdom. So say, for example, we perform an action quite carelessly. We do good, but then we're not really thinking so much about it. Then it can be dissociated from wisdom. Like any kind of small, tiny good, we should actually appreciate any kind of goodness, even if it is small. For example, feeding the dog, or I have some extra bread, I leave it in the balcony for birds to take them. So those little kinds of actions are also wholesome actions. We have wholesome intentions. So those actions it can also be associated with wisdom if we know it, if we do it consciously. But if we do it carelessly, let's say we just throw it, whatever. If they take, then it will be good. If not, otherwise, whatever. Then with that kind of attitude, it's probably not associated with mental pleasure to begin with. It will be associated with mental neutral feeling, but it is most probably carelessly dissociated from wisdom, even it is a good action that is performed. Okay, so again, unprompted or prompted, then the next 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, accompanied by mental neutral feeling, can be associated with wisdom, unprompted or prompted, the same way, dissociated from wisdom, unprompted or prompted. So with this aspect, we have 8 kinds of kamavachara kusala cittas. Okay. Any questions until here? All clear? Okay.
How about
yes.
the sprint in this? Is it in this order? Remember, we had a sprint.
Yes, right. It is in this order. Okay, let's imagine if we do an action with a mental pleasant feeling, we're very happily performing this good action associated with wisdom, spontaneously. No one asks us to do it, but we really want to do it. That's strong, right? If we do a wholesome action happily with wisdom, but someone encouraged us or suggests us to do so. So it's a little bit less strong in that case, right? Then dissociated from wisdom, unprompted or prompted. Or if we do an action with mental neutral feeling, then associated or without, because if we do it happily, it's stronger. Or if we do it just with a mental neutral feeling, even if it's associated with wisdom, prompted or unprompted, then it goes, depends on the degree. Okay. All right. And also, of course, it also depends on the actual what action that we are doing. No, For example, this is just in general. Now we can understand it in this way. For example, a person, let's say he's practicing meditation equanimously with a mental neutral feeling associated with wisdom. He understands and he's practicing unprompted. Then obviously it will be stronger than a person very happily feeding the birds, let's say, without understanding or unprompted, right? So it also depends case by case what the action actually is. So we cannot just follow like this is the best and then in this way, no? Okay. Now, I guess Edith wanted to say something, no?
I just wanted to ask if like if I prepare a tea for someone, I should actively think good thoughts about that. I should actively just
like if
try to feel even happy about that, because I'm usually more like
neutral,
unfazed, it's just neutral for me.
Yes. So later on, actually, in the section of karma, we will talk very much in detail of how to perform an action that gives the best result, actually, or like what kind of actions, how it is performed that give the best result. But not that because we are having loba or craving for this, but this is an understanding, right? Now, if we perform an action happily. Let's say, just as you said, this example, offering a tea to someone. If I just generally offer the tea, then okay, that's a good action also. But if I do it happily, if I'm thinking that this might be the one and only time that I will see you, right? In Japanese, this is called ichigo ichie. This is not exactly the Dhamma, but I think it is very beautiful. Like one. In translation, literally, it means one time, one encounter. So if we treat everyone with every single small little action with this attitude of serving, of loving kindness, of like, this may be the only time I will see you. Who knows? Maybe tomorrow I die. We don't know. This might be the only time. So with this attitude, when we serve something, that is with wisdom. And if we do it happily, that's more beautiful, actually, not to talk about the result, whether we get good result or not, but just doing something happily. One also get an immediate result is we are happy also. When we do good things happily, we are also happy. And then when we do every single thing carefully, this is also a kind of meditation practice, because we have to be mindful. We have to be present. We have to think about it. And we cannot just carelessly perform things. Then we can actually treat this as a very active meditation practice. Because as long as there is sati, wisdom can arise, right? So performing, even offering a tea, if we remember to do so, is actually a beautiful experience. So, and of course, but many times in daily life, we do this and that, so many things, and then sometimes we forget, but that's okay. We forget. It doesn't mean that it is not a good action, but the quality of that action is obviously less, no?
Yeah, then I think you just mentioned this last time, because I usually just observe my movements because I have to, and remind myself like what I'm doing. So that's where my mind usually is. So is that better than just thinking about how good this serving the tea is, right?
Can you say again? I just want to understand better. That how do you usually do it? You're thinking about observing the movement.
I usually, let's say, yes, and try to be mindful as many moments as possible. Is that better than just having great thoughts about giving?
I think if you can do both, that's best.
Okay, Thank you. Yeah, it makes sense.
movement. Yeah, you know the movement, and you are practicing. You are being mindful, and you're happily doing the good thing, and you are doing happily with understanding and also practicing. So I guess that's best. Okay. Anyone else? Until here, all good? Yes.
Can you just ask for an example of an action accompanied by mental pleasure versus an action that's neutral? Like, what's the difference?
It's really just whether you are doing it happily or not. Let's say just use the example of Edith. If she served the tea like very happily, she's enjoying the process of doing this good, thinking that this is nice with a happy mental feeling, then offer, or I just pour the tea and I give you.
And then that could also be an unwholesome action as well if you don't like.
No, it's not an unwholesome action. Here today we're talking about wholesome action. It's just a wholesome action. But wholesome action can also be done with vipāka, no, with neutral feeling. So it is possible that many times we do this. Actually, sometimes like let's say when we pass by someone drop the purse or drop something, then hey, wait, then you just pick up and give it to him. It's a good action, right? But it's not, it doesn't really necessarily that I do it so happily. So that means that this kind of citta also arises in us. It is also possible to accompany it by mental neutral feeling, but doesn't mean that if it is neutral, it is bad. Just like the example that we used previously, when we meditate, maybe the mind could be happily, or it could be just neutral with neutral feeling. That is also good. There's also wholesome citta when we meditate or when we do something with a neutral feeling. It's just different. It really depends case by case. Like we cannot exactly say which is better and which is not, because well, now we are talking about wholesome cittas. We're not talking about jhana cittas, but if we are talking about jhana cittas, like very deep meditative cittas, those cittas that arise when the mind is in a very deep meditative state, and those cittas definitely with vipāka is better than with domanassa. Because yes.
And for example, if you do something good, but there's some aversion or something, or so that could taint the action.
Yes. And remember, we are talking about microscopic moments again, right? Cittas. So when you perform the action, it's good. Then those cittas that arise at that moment when you perform the action is kusala, is wholesome. Then when there is aversion, there is another mental process which is associated with dosa mula citta, right? And then another mental process that happens while performing. When you do good, it's always good. But when we are not feeling well, then it's unwholesome about that. So different moments, different process. Okay.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Okay. Anyone else? No? Okay, so let's continue. Okay, so let's look a little bit about...
Looks like Claudia has a question.
Oh, yes. Claudia, yes.
It's not like a question, it's just that I want to share, because I had it said before, when she does something, she's aware of the movement of her body. But in my case, I noticed that when I do something good, there is a sensation on my chest, just in the middle of my ribs. Always this sensation is there. So I am noting that, which is, it is a little bit easier to do instead of, not because it need to be easier, but I feel that there is more connection with the action.
Yeah, anything that is obvious, because everyone is different. So whatever that is obvious for you, then you observe that, and that's good. Actually, body sensation is good, like movement or any kind of like this sensations or anything in the body is good. It anchors the mind to be in the present moment quite easier because they are grosser object now, like we really feel them now. But actually, a step further, only that is not good enough. We have to know the mind, the intention. When we serve the tea, what kind of intention are we doing that? With what intention? With what kind of mental state? What kind of citta is arising at those moments? So knowing the mind also, it's very important. Although, well, first step, we know the body. It's easy. The mind, it's anchored. We are there. Then next step, we need to try to know the mind as well, not only the body. Yeah.
But the process to pass from the body to the mind comes naturally, or you put an effort on it?
We have to remember to do so, let's say. We have to put an effort because it is practice. So if we practice a lot, it comes naturally. When you know the body, you know the mind as well. Actually, because they are not separated things, right? When you are moving, the mind is also happening. So maybe we can observe like some easier thing to observe is like our feeling, like how are we feeling at this moment when I'm doing this action with this movement, and so that those are connected to the mind as well. But we need to remember to observe that as well. With practice, it will come natural.
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, so if there is no other question, then let's go to the Pali words so that we get familiar with the Pali. I would actually really like to use more and more Pali during the course, during the class. So we remember those Pali words, let's say very, very common ones like domanassa or vipāka, because remembering them, we don't necessarily have to memorize them, but so many times that you listen to it again and again and again, then you know what it is. Let's say dosa. I really prefer to say dosa than anger. Then we avoid misunderstanding, right? So let's get familiar with the Pali words. Okay, so accompanied with mental pleasure, domanassa sahagata. If you don't remember sahagata, that's fine. Let's just at least remember domanassa, no? Domanassa, pleasant mental feeling. Then we have vipāka sahagata, mental neutral feeling. But be careful, this word vipāka, it also is a tricky word. It has a lot of meaning to it. But now we are talking about vedana, talking about mental feeling. So in this context, it means mental neutral feeling. Later on, there are many other meaning to vipāka as well in other contexts, okay? Then jnana and panya, they are synonym. When we see the Noble Eightfold Path, we say panya, yeah, panya. So here, jnana, they are synonym. So jnana, sampayutta or vipayutta, associated with some together with saha, some like this is together. Then we is like without, so vipayutta, associated with, dissociated from wisdom. Jnana, sampayutta, jnana, vipayutta. Then we have asankarika, unprompted, sasankarika, prompted. Okay, so with this, then we have domanassa sahagata jnana sampayutta asankarika citta, no? One. Then the second, kamavachara kusala citta, domanassa sahagata jnana sampayutta sasankarika. Third one, domanassa sahagata jnana vipayutta asankarika. Domanassa sahagata jnana vipayutta sasankarika. Then we have vipāka sahagata jnana sampayutta asankarika sasankarika. Then we have vipāka sahagata jnana vipayutta asankarika or sasankarika. So 8 of them. Okay. All right. So we have finished with the 8 kamavachara kusala cittas. So wholesome cittas of the with characteristic of the sense sphere. Let's do a little game like last time, like we did last time with the lobha mula citta. Okay, let's see. Now this person he's doing, we will see, just imagine, like we look at the picture and we imagine like this person, what kind of wholesome citta is arising in his mind at the moment. No, let's say this doctor is helping his patient. So what do you think? Mental feeling?
Domanassa.
Domanassa, right? With such a big smile, no? So domanassa, okay. Then with wisdom or without wisdom? Very hard to say. Yeah. This one is just like the DT round view, no? Very hard to say. We don't know whether it's with, it could be with or it could be without. And how about prompted or unprompted?
Unprompted. That also we don't know.
Yeah, it can be unknown, but it looks like unprompted. It looks like unprompted, right? Okay, so let's consider it unprompted here in this case. Okay, let's look at another example. Let's say this little girl here, and she's like offering some donations to some campaign of helping something. Mental feeling. Vipāka. Could be vipāka, could be domanassa, a little bit smiley. Okay, let's say domanassa. Okay, with or without wisdom, this case can be, but probably without. Yes, because she's too little to understand. Yeah, so most probably without in this case. Then prompted or unprompted?
Prompted.
Yeah, we don't know, but it seems that the parent is in the back, like trying to help her. So maybe prompted. No, could be. Okay.
Right.
All right. So let's say there is no correct answer. We are just trying to see the, like in this case, what do we think? It can be either actually. Okay, this mother helping her child when she's sick.
Vipāka.
Yeah, I saw that Chia has a question. Do you want to do it now or after this picture?
It's not about this picture, but sort of related.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. I was wondering if you have this thought. Let's say you've got somebody, let's say like a drunk person, right? Just a hypothetical question, and you've got like somebody who's healthier, let's say an extreme example, a bhikkhu, and you say to yourself as you're giving this drunk person some food, or I'm helping this drunk person, but actually maybe it's not the best use of these resources, and it's slightly better to give somebody who's more noble. Would you say this is wisdom, or is this kind of a wrong way to think whilst you're giving?
It's wisdom.
Okay.
Yes. Sometimes if you are giving, let's say using this example, if you're giving food is a little bit better because that will nurture the person at least for one day or for that time at least. If you're giving money, you don't know what he's going to do. Maybe he's going to buy more alcohol or maybe it's actually harming him, right? So that's another situation. But as you said, that understanding that giving to a noble person, has a better quality of performing this wholesome action. That's correct. That's wisdom. For example, if you offer to a bhikkhu with this example, and maybe he is actually practicing, and he will teach the Dhamma, then more people will be benefited by his practice and by his teaching. So the result is, it's better in that case. So thinking in this way is not bad. It's wisdom, actually. In the karma section in chapter 5, we will have in details about all these actions, different actions, which ones are better in quality, let's say.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Okay, so let's continue with this picture. So this mother, it could be vipāka because the child is maybe sick, then maybe she's not feeling so good, but she's also smiling. So it could be both, actually. It could be domanassa or it could be vipāka. All right, so with or without wisdom, very hard to say. How about prompted or unprompted?
Unprompted.
Unprompted. No, most probably. Okay. Okay, let's go. Another one. How about this? Mental feeling.
Upeka.
Could be upeka
Upeka.
and could be somanassa. It could,
Yeah.
depending on her meditation. And wisdom, most probably with
wisdom.
Okay, then prompted or unprompted? Most probably
Unprompted.
Most probably unprompted. Okay, that's good. Then let's go one more. Some more, actually. How about this lady helping her mom?
Somanassa.
Looks like somanassa. Wisdom, hard to say. And prompted or unprompted?
Unprompted.
Okay.
Maybe prompted.
Okay. All right. Okay, let's see. This person. Maybe this husband washing the dishes.
Upeka.
Upeka.
Most probably upeka. He doesn't look like he's very happily washing the dishes, but he's doing it anyway. Okay. And with or without wisdom, hard to say, right? So how about
wisdom?
Without wisdom,
Prompted.
or maybe with wisdom, maybe his understanding helping his wife is a very good action, and karma exists, and he's like practicing washing dishes meditation, which I like to do. It's actually, I recommend everyone to try, because when you wash dishes, there is not much thing that you don't have to think about how to do it, right? So it's actually
No, I'm just based on this picture, right? If it's a upeka, that kind of thing most likely would be somanassa.
He looks somanassa?
No, he doesn't look somanassa. So since he looks upeka, looks like he has been like, forced, or basically he's, it cannot be wisdom. So.
Well, maybe he's taking this chance to practice meditation as well. So with or without without wisdom, we don't know. It could be both. How about prompted or unprompted? Amar said that he's prompted, most probably. His wife made him wash the dishes.
Facial expression, I'm just basing.
All right, so we don't know the full story here. Maybe he volunteered, or maybe his wife made him wash the dish. So we don't know. Could be prompted or unprompted. Okay, so let's see another one. How about this lady offering food?
Somanassa.
Yes. Okay. So with or without wisdom, very hard to say. How about prompted or unprompted?
Unprompted.
Looks like unprompted, right? Okay, then how about this lady?
Somanassa.
Probably somanassa, right? How about with or without wisdom?
With
wisdom.
Most probably with wisdom, no? Because most of the time this is actually a picture from Myanmar. Most of the time in that culture, people understand about karma. So we can consider this with wisdom. Yeah, then prompted or unprompted?
Unprompted.
Unprompted, right. Okay, very nice. Okay, so just a little moment, we can also reflect in our daily life. When and how does these kinds of Kusala Cittas arise in me? Do they arise? In what way? Are they prompted or unprompted? Like what kind of good do I do? Are they with wisdom or without wisdom?
Since I start to meditate, I can say that most of them are with wisdom.
That's very good. But remember, we have to be careful because not like the Loba Mula Citta, not like with wrong view, a general understanding is not good enough. So we must consciously know the goodness that we are doing, then consciously use wisdom. Then those will be associated with wisdom. Sometimes when we help someone or when we do something, just a simple service, then we do it without thinking much about it, then it could be without wisdom as well. But if it is most of the time with wisdom, that is very nice. That's very good.
Like, for example, sometimes you can speak badly about somebody, And then straight away arise in my mind that, oh no, this one is wrong speech. And then it's just, there is this changing on.
Perfect. That's definitely a Kusala Citta with wisdom. Because you refrain from doing unwholesome actions, right? So later on, when we study Cittasika, we will also come across this kind of refraining. Like those are some Cittasikas that we will go to in chapter 2. Yes, Eddie.
I just wanted to say, just studying the Abhidhamma and being here, making an effort to be here, to wake up. Many of who are here have to wake up really early.
Right.
So it's a very, very good effort, I think, and this is very wholesome. Sorry.
Yes, sadhu to all of you.
Sadhu.
Yes.
Sadhu.
Yes, I know waking up early in the morning is not easy to study, but it's good. As Eddie said, I appreciate all your effort in doing so. And this is, we have 2 hours of Kusala Cittas. That's a lot. Right? So it's good. Okay, so up to here, Delawa has a question. Yes.
Is it prompted if I tell myself I should do now, let's say, chores because it's necessary? Or it's prompted, right?
It's prompted, yes, prompted by oneself.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. All right, so until here, if we don't have other questions, let's take a little break for 5 minutes. And then when we come back, we will continue with the other categories of the beautiful consciousness. Okay, so 5 minutes. See you later. So if everyone is ready, let's continue with the other cittas. Now, today we are talking about the Sobhana Cittas, beautiful consciousness, and we have finished the first group, Kusala Citta. So now we are going to the next group, Sahetuka Kusala Vipāka, wholesome resultant consciousness with roots. Now here, remember in the Akusala Cittas, we directly, that group is called unwholesome Cittas, right? And here it's called beautiful Cittas, beautiful consciousness. I don't know if you have noticed, it is not called wholesome Cittas because not only Kusala Cittas associate with these beautiful roots. Also, this resultant, there are some kind of resultant are also associated with good roots. And then later we have another group here, which are the functional. They also associate with this good root. We will now go into details to look at them. But I just wanted to say Sobhana, this beautiful, is wider than Kusala. So not only Kusala, not only wholesome consciousness associated with the beautiful roots, but also there are different kinds of beautiful cittas, other kinds of cittas that are also associated with these beautiful roots. So therefore, they are called beautiful roots and not specifically wholesome roots. Okay? All right, so let's see. This Sahetuka Kusala Vipāka Cittas, wholesome resultant consciousness with roots. So Kusala, wholesome. Vipāka, resultant. Sa, with, hetu, roots, Sahetuka, Kusala Vipāka. So we've seen that the 8 kind of Kusala Cittas, the one that we have just seen right now, the 8 kind of them, they produce 2 kind of results, right? Last time we have already talked about this. The first one, they produce the Ahetuka Kusala Vipāka, wholesome resultant consciousness without roots. Those are what? The eye, ear, nose, tongue, body consciousness, receiving consciousness, and investigating consciousness, right? Those are the result of wholesome consciousness, but they are without roots. Now, wholesome consciousness, they also produce another type of resultant, which is called Sahetuka Kamavachara Vipāka Citta. Sahetuka Kamavachara Kusala Vipāka, wholesome resultant consciousness with roots. And in this category, we are going to look at them. Now, if we see that the seed of this fruit produced a similar fruit, right? So let's say an apple seed produces an apple fruit. An apple seed does not produce a banana or does not produce an avocado, right? So the action that is being done, the result will be similar to it in this case. Now, today, someone told me that this is not a good example because the apple does not actually, the apple tree does not come from the apple seed. Then it's come from like this, like branching and different kind of things. But just understand that this is just an example, okay? So we're just using symbols, okay? So pretend that this apple seed gives this apple fruit, okay? This is just graphics that we want to show how they are similar, okay? Okay, so let's see. Okay, so in the same way, like an apple seed gives apples, so in the same way, resultant consciousness will be identical to those Kusala Citta that produce it. Now, one more thing that we have to point out is that Kusala Citta arise only in non-enlightened being or non-fully enlightened beings. Fully enlightened beings, when they do good, another kind of citta arise in them. That is actually the next group that we're going to look at. But remember here, Kusala Cittas are only arise in non-enlightened being or non-fully enlightened being. Okay? So, having said that, the fruit and the seed and the fruit are identical, so we can understand that the four aspects of the Sahetuka, Kamavachara, Kusala, Vipāka Cittas are actually identical to those Kusala Cittas. So it's easy to know, easy to understand. So that means that they are also associated with alobha and dosa to begin with, and they can be associated with the mental feeling, either domanassa or vipāka, depending on the action when it is done with or without wisdom, and unprompted or prompted. So in this case, very quickly, we have already got 8 kinds of Kamavachara, Kusala, Vipāka Cittas, which is the same, actually, accompanied with domanassa, with or without with wisdom, unprompted, prompted, without wisdom, unprompted and prompted. Then we have with mental neutral feeling associated with wisdom, or prompted, unprompted or prompted, or dissociated from wisdom, unprompted or prompted. So these are the 8 kinds of sense sphere, wholesome, resultant consciousness with roots. Okay, now Pali, this is the Pali of them. I will not repeat it here because it's basically the same as the Kusala Cittas. Now we may say that, so if they are the same, like what is the difference, right? So the difference is one is the seed and the other one is the fruit. For example, here, these 8 kind of Sahetuka, Kamavachara, Kusala, Vipāka Cittas, one of their functions is actually being rebirth consciousness. According to the Buddha's teaching, there are many past lives and there will also be future lives. Throughout samsara, we have lived uncountable numbers of lives. So when one life finished, immediately another life starts with a rebirth consciousness. So one of the function of this Sahetuka, Kusala, Vipāka, this wholesome resultant consciousness with roots, is rebirth linking for humans as well as for devas. Okay, so we are now born as human in this life. That's because of a previous wholesome action that we have done. So we are surely born with one of these 8 kind of Kusala, Vipāka Cittas. Okay. Now about sorry, I'll just go back here a little bit. Now about the different kinds of beings, because we are only mentioning human and devas here. So about different kinds of beings and what kind of resultant citta one is born with. where and how and all this, we will talk about it in later chapters. But for now, we just need to understand that these Cittas, what they do, one of their function is rebirth linking, which is an important function, right? As a human or as a deva. Okay, so in this case, we have very quickly finished another category, which is the Sahetuka Kusala Vipāka. Then now we're going to the last category, Sahetuka Kiriya Cittas. So functional consciousness with roots, with these beautiful roots. Okay. Whoops. Where did? Okay. Yeah. Here I wanted to say that these ones are actually result of the previous 8. No, they are identical. Previous result of the previous 8, and then this one produced this kind of result, as well as the rootless result, the eye consciousness, ear consciousness, and those consciousness actually arise once we become a human being, you know, or become a deva. So first, with this vipāka, we are born as a human. That's a resultant. Then later on, when we see things and when eye consciousness arise, like how we see, smell, taste, and all this consciousness, when we take this kind of external object, those are the resultant. Also could be from our previous good actions when the object is good, but those are rootless. So these ones are with roots. Okay, so let's go to the last group, Sahetuka Kiriya Cittas. Now, as we said that Kusala Cittas arise only in non-enlightened being or non-fully enlightened being. Now here, when a fully enlightened being, when they perform mentally wholesome acts, mentally good actions, or they say kind words, or they actually help others, they actually do not plant seeds anymore. So those Cittas that arise in them when they perform these good actions are actually only functional. When a fully enlightened being, when they perform these good actions, that these actions does not leave any potency to give result anymore. Because for the Buddhas or for Arahants, which is fully enlightened being, they have totally destroyed moha, ignorance, and tanha, craving. So they are not attached to the result. And because without these conditions, results cannot arise anymore. So for these beings, fully enlightened beings, when they do these good actions, they are only functional actions. So in the same way, we can understand that actually they are again the same ones, accompanied by mental pleasure associated with wisdom, unprompted or prompted, without wisdom, unprompted or prompted, with now mental neutral feeling associated with wisdom, unprompted or prompted, dissociated from wisdom, unprompted or prompted. So those are actually the same 8 kinds of Cittas, but they do not give result anymore. They will not produce karma anymore. So therefore, they are called Kiriya Cittas, functional Cittas, instead of wholesome Cittas. Okay. All right. So for Pali words, they are the same. So I'm not gonna repeat that again. Yes, Kawai has a question.
Yes. So does this replace the Cittas in the Javana section for unenlightened beings?
For fully enlightened being.
Yes, for fully enlightened beings,
right,
compared to unenlightened.
In the Javanas, yes. Yes, because very obviously, unwholesome Cittas cannot arise in them anymore. So all the time they are doing good, but then as you said, in the Javana moments, wholesome Citta also do not arise in them anymore. So these Kiriya Cittas arise in them.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Yes, Claudia.
Yeah, my question is, how is possible that an enlightened being can have jnana vipayuta?
Good question. Good question. Okay, now how does jnana vipayuta arise in a fully enlightened being? There are different situations. Now, when a fully enlightened being, if he performs some action, very simple actions, sometimes, for example, he give a tea to someone or like that. For us, non-enlightened being, we have to purposefully remember and consciously do the action for it in order for it to be with wisdom, right? But for a totally enlightened being, we may say that they are always with wisdom. How is it possible that it is without wisdom? So our teacher says that when this jnana vipāka happens, it's because the work is very simple. They don't even have to use their wisdom. Like they do some simple daily work. So it is not necessary that they to use their kind of wisdom. So that time it is possible that it is jnana vipāka, dissociated from wisdom. And another situation is that when a fully enlightened being also have different degree of understanding, different degree of wisdom. No, they must all arrive to a certain degree of wisdom where they get fully enlightened, that's for sure. But the Buddha's wisdom is higher than the other enlightened beings' wisdom. No, the thing that he knows, how he understands the reality is deeper than some other fully enlightened beings. Not all enlightened beings have the same understanding as the Buddha, right? So in this case, for example, in the suttas, there is one story that Venerable Sariputta, he was instructing a monk for meditation, but then this monk he couldn't get it, and he was almost about to quit, right? Because then he went to the Buddha, and then the Buddha gave him another practice, another object of meditation or another practice. Then with that practice, then he got fully enlightened very quickly. So in this example, that we understand that only the Buddha knows the tendency or the how can I say, like what is suitable, exactly suitable for this being. Only the Buddha has this wisdom. Even Venerable Sariputta, which is second to the Buddha in wisdom, then he also does not know that. Therefore, the instruction that he gave to this monk was not exactly the right practice for this monk at that time. Therefore, that monk, he couldn't get it and couldn't get it. So in that case, for Venerable Sariputta, in that specific case, it could be jnana vipāka in that case, because that subject is too deep. So he also, his wisdom does not arrive to reach that level. So that's another example. So two reasons. One is either the job is very simple, then he does not require him to use wisdom, and another one is the subject is really difficult, and then even the fully enlightened being, his wisdom does not reach that. Yes, Edith.
Can you please mention other functions for the Kusala Vipākas? You mentioned that one function is for the rebirth consciousness to arise, and I'm just thinking maybe it's the Tadaramanas. Or... Yes,
and Bhavanga as well.
Bhavanga. Yeah, of course, because okay. Thank you.
Okay, we will get into that in the coming chapters. So for those that haven't studied about the Taramana and Bhavanga yet, don't worry about it. We will go there. Okay, in later chapters. All right. Anyone else? Questions? No more?
Yeah, this is, I think, just a philosophical question, because the enlightened beings, they are no longer subject to the 3 evil roots. So how is it that this is actually a functional consciousness with roots? Although yes, they are the negation of those evil roots, but like they are no longer subject to the roots, right? So yeah.
No, they are no longer subjected to the unwholesome roots, but beautiful roots, of course, there are. Like a fully enlightened being always act with loving kindness, always act with non-aversion, and sometimes with wisdom, sometimes without wisdom.
Okay.
Yeah. The only difference is...
If there is a root, then there will be a resultant, right? No.
If it is the roots, even with the okay, I'll go to the next slide. Even with the resultant, there are roots as well, right? Sahetuka. So They are resultant itself. They do not plant seeds anymore. It doesn't mean that when there are roots, it will create karma. The only thing is that when it is wholesome or unwholesome cittas, then it creates karma. And the unwholesome associate with the 3 unwholesome roots, and the beautiful ones, the wholesome ones, associate with these beautiful roots. Therefore, these ones are not called wholesome roots, but called beautiful roots, because other cittas, other types of cittas also associate with them. If we are a human being, that we are born with one of these kinds of kusala, vipāka cittas, right? So there are different kinds also. In later chapters, we are going to go into details to see which kind of resultant consciousness, rebirth consciousness are possible for which types of beings. Then there it will be more clear. Okay. Kawai, is that okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Austin, yes.
I just wanted to clarify, when we're talking about enlightened beings and jnana vipāka, we're talking about like jnana in the mundane sense, right? In the sense that when you talk about jnana or wisdom, like how it's defined as right view and right thought, that obviously enlightened being would have right view and right thought. It's only about mundane knowledge, like when you're giving the example of the Sahetuka, it's like not in terms of right view and right thought, it's in terms of what's suitable for this particular person.
Exactly.
It's not
Yeah, because obviously they already got enlightened, so they have this degree of wisdom for them to get fully enlightened. No, so all those they already this anicca, dukkha, anatta, they already understand, but not necessarily they have to use their wisdom all the time. For example, if they do some simple daily jobs, jhavanas also arise in their mind. No. So not every single action that they need to apply their wisdom. So in that case, those can be jnana vipayuta. Okay. Yes, Claudia.
I just want to check if I understood. So basically, when you, at the moment of your death, if you have any wholesome or unwholesome consciousness, basically the results of that one have the same characteristic when not you, but when is appear again, when arise again from the first moment of your existence. Is that correct? It's the same quality, no?
You mean the one that you that before dying?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so these ones we in detail, I will just answer briefly. In detail, we will look at it when we look at the death process, the mental process of dying. No, when we are there, then we will go into details. But briefly, not exactly in the last moments that action, because imagine. The last actions, like when we are dying, we are lying, for example, we are lying in bed, we are very weak, and what kind of good can we do in that moment? Not much, actually, right? So how can it produce like a very good result for a person to become a deva, or for a person to become a brahma, or for a person to become a human again? So actually, it is not in the last process that is determined with the last process. The last process is only conditions for previous wholesome karma to give result. So it presents the object for previous good deed that the person has done throughout his life, a strong one. Then which one will come first? All these will also go into details when we study about karma in the other chapter. So these conditions for those to arise and then give result in the first moment. And that one will be identical. And there are also some variants also. So this is very interesting. Like, for example, just advertisement, little bit of the coming chapters, like whether we perform the action happily or not happily, in 3 times. When before we perform it, we are happy that we're going to do so. While doing it, we are happily doing so. Then afterwards, we rejoice in, it's so good that I did it, like 3 times. And also there are different kinds of different details on how we perform the action. It actually modifies the result. So just as an advertisement, we will come to that later. Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. Okay. So any other questions up to here? We okay? All right. So one more thing to tell everyone. Now we have seen that this is called Kusala Cittas. This is called Kusala Cittas, and the other ones are resultant and functional, but they also have another name here that you will find in some texts or in the Abhidhamma Sangaha. Sometimes they are called Mahakusala. So Maha means great, and Kusala, wholesome, so the great wholesome. And then sometimes this group is also called vipāka, the great resultant, and they are also called kiriya, so the great. But here, the great refers actually to not that they are great, well, they are great as well, but not that they are that great, but they are greater in number of cittas in comparison with the other categories. So there are more of these cittas in this category. So they are called Mahakusala, Mahavipāka, and Mahakriya. So later on, in later chapters, if we see these words, then we understand if with Mahakusala is mentioned, that we know they are talking about these 8 kinds. Mahavipāka, these 8 kinds. Mahakriya, these 8 kinds. So this is just another terms that is that you will find in the text and in other places. So it's good just to know that what they actually mean. Okay, so now Kamavachara Cittas, Cittas with characteristics of sensual plane. Then we have covered all Akusala Citta, all rootless, and also this Sobhana Cittas, Kusala, Vipāka, and Kiriya as well. So we have finished all of this. Okay, now there are actually this one, they are the result of this one. This one, you see that this akusala produce only this rootless consciousness, right? And this kusala, it produce rootless as well as root, as well as with roots. So in this group, we finished all Kamavachara Kusala Cittas, and there are actually something more. Well, fireworks! Congratulations to everyone first. And okay, so the Buddha's teaching is all about cause and effect, as we know. So there are causes and conditions for everything to arise. So here I would like to share with you the explanation given by Sayadaw Usilananda according to the teachings on some of the causes and conditions for cittas with wisdom to arise. Okay, so why does this cittas with wisdom arise more frequently in some person and why not in some other person? So it will be good to know, yeah? Okay, so the first one is actually about karma, about actions. Now, the first reason is how we used to do things in the past. Like if we do karma in the past with wisdom, mostly we perform karma with wisdom, then it is conducive to producing more wisdom, right? So when we do meritorious deeds with wisdom in the past, then we used to do that, then here it will be more possible for future that we are more Kusala Citta with wisdom can arise, as well as when we do Kusala Cittas in the past, if we have the mind thinking that may this action be conducive for wisdom to arise, that is also a cause for future Kusala Cittas with wisdom to arise. But this is not magical or wishful thinking. Not that because when I perform Kusala Cittas, I say, may this good action be conducive for wisdom to arise. But you see, the mind is already being directed to the direction towards the growing of wisdom, even when we are performing that action. So there are more possibilities for these cittas to arise with wisdom later on. So this is one reason. And another reason is if we help others by sharing knowledge, then it is quite logical that the similar result will happen, no, relating to knowledge. So if we help spread the teaching of, let's say, whatever it may be, here the person is teaching guitar and like this. So whatever we help, or indirectly, not directly teaching, but indirectly facilitating others to get knowledge, let's say helping in the library or like printing books and all this. So these ones are also conditions for more wisdom to arise. Because so is the seed, so is the fruit, right? So whatever kind of knowledge one aspire to obtain in the future, then one support that kind of knowledge to thrive. For example, Sayadaw, he offers Dhamma talk, and some other Sayadaw, he gives Dhamma teachings, some guide meditations and all this. So with this, because of their own action, then later on more cittas with wisdom are more easier or more frequently can arise in them. Now we may say that maybe I cannot teach the Dhamma, so what can I do? How can I offer? How can I help? So there are different ways, like by, let's say, by offering books, or by helping printing, or anything that helps other to get this kind of understanding of wisdom is also helpful in this way. Okay, that's the first reason. Now the second reason is very nice, actually. This one is to be free from anger. Do you think that wisdom is likely to arise when we are in this kind of situation? Not really, right? Yeah. So our teacher says that anger is one mental state which weakens the understanding or knowledge. So therefore, to be free from anger is also reason or a cause for more cittas with wisdom to arise. So if we want to be wise, we want to grow in knowledge, then we should try to be away from dosa, and then there are more possibilities. Okay, so there is another reason. The third reason is the maturity of mental faculties. So maybe you have heard about the 5 faculties. So there are 5 faculties here: sada, confidence; panya, wisdom. And then we have, this is a pair, then we have samadhi, concentration, and viriya, which is effort. And these 4 is also being guided by sati, because sati knows that whether these two are in balance. No? So these 5 are called the mental faculties. Now it is said that when the mental faculties are mature, then it is easier for wisdom to arise. So in the explanation, a human's life is divided into different stages. Taking a person who lived for 100 years, so it is divided into 10 decades. So it is said that when is the time where the faculties has more possibility to get mature, and therefore more cittas with wisdom to arise. Now let's take a look of the stages of life. This is also very nice. So from 0 to 100. Now from 0 to 10 years old, this is called the tender decade. That's when a person grows and learn and just exploring and starting. Then we have the next stage that is called the decade of fun. That's when we are in the teenagehood and we're having fun and enjoying in those years. Okay, then the next decade is called the decade of beauty. That's when one's beauty blossoms the most, from 20 to 30. And next one is called the decade of strength. Then from 30 to 40, people gain more strength and one becomes stronger in this time. And the next one is called the decade of wisdom. So it is said that in this time from 40 to 50, then it is conducive for wisdom to mature in this stage. Most probably because one has gained a bit more experience in life as well than in this stage. So that's in that time, Cittas with wisdom are more can happen more frequently, it is said. So then coming to 50 to 60 is the decade of decline. Then bodily and mental strength start to go down. Then we have the decade of leaning, it's called. So we're getting older and older, 60 to 70. Then the next decade is called the decade of bending, getting further. Then we have the decade of senile. Then here, memory getting lost, and then we're getting older. Then from 90 to 100 is the decade close to departure, actually. So these are the stages that are described in the scriptures about the human life. So I find this video online and I think it's quite beautiful. So maybe you want to take a look from 0 to 100.
We are all on our way, like little rockets or old satellites. A lovely storm forms from every single heartbeat, every single heart. Every single heartbeat, every single heart, every single heartbeat.
Yeah. So did you hear the music as well? Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, so I just find this quite inspiring, like we see how life changes, no? Okay, so another reason, the fourth reason is if we want to be knowledgeable or for more wisdom to arise, then we should be distant from mental defilements. This is another cause. So distance from defilements due to the practice of samatha, tranquility meditation, as well as the practice of vipassana meditation. So by practicing samatha and vipassana, more wisdom, more cittas with wisdom can arise. Okay, now the last reason is if a person is reborn with all the three wholesome roots, then it is more possible for this person also to have more wholesome cittas with wisdom to arise. So these are the 5 causes and conditions for wisdom to arise more frequently. So in a recap, first, the past action, the intention and care about wisdom, how we do it, like when we perform the actions, we aspire to have more wisdom to arise in later period, and to be free from anger, the maturity of mental faculties, then the distance from mental defilement, and rebirth with all the 3 wholesome roots. So these are the 5 causes for consciousness with wisdom to arise more frequently. Okay, so just good time, and we finished with all the material today. So next week we are going to look at kusala karma and akusala karma. So we have looked at already the cittas, what kind of what cittas are in the wholesome group and what cittas are in the unwholesome group. Now next week we are going to look at practically what, when, how does this citta arise in our daily life. Okay, so next week we're going to look at that. And so that's all for today. And thank you very much, everyone. And if you have no more questions, then we will stop here today. Is that okay? Yeah. All right. So, okay, let's make an aspiration as we always do. May more wisdom arise in us. And then also we will dedicate our merit to all beings, okay? Itam no punyam nibbānassa paccayyo hotu. Itam no punyam magaphala jnanassa paccayyo hotu. Itam no punyam magaphala jnanassa paccayyo hotu. May this merit be conditions for Magga and Phala Cittas, which is the enlightened Cittas, to arise. Itam no punyam savasatannam pajima. Itam no punyam savasatannam pajima. Itam no punyam savasatannam pajima. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And we share our merits with all beings. Okay, thank you everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you very much. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you, sadhu.
Sadhu.
Sadhu, thank you.
Thank you. See you.
Bye.